program is a SUTV student production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
Thank you for joining us, Matt Jackson, speaking here today for the Salisbury Student Committee.
No problem.
Tell me about the committee. What is it set out to do? How did it come about? Talk about it a bit.
Salisbury Student Committee is just a group of peers, all students who go to Salisbury University. We are all seeking to correct some of the institutional and traditional underlying issues that we're having in terms of diversity, in terms of cultural bias. We're trying to get rid of that. And so we're just students here. We're typical students seeking to have a great college experience, seeking to build relationships. But we also have a certain tolerance for neglect. We have a certain tolerance for pettiness, and we really want to get our point across that this university needs to represent everyone who goes here.
So why now? You know, this is something that's, while these issues, you know, you may say have been going on, why is the committee being formed now?
Well, the committee, like most committees or most revolutions, are formed out of the necessity. And because we've been dealing with these issues on a subconscious basis, we haven't been actively pushed by anybody administrative-wise to go ahead and say, hey, what solutions can you guys see? You know, what resources do you guys have? But now that students are seeing other schools, you know, take initiative. I remember when we wrote the letter, students started to want to reveal more information about their experience here. And a lot of times, students are just nervous. They're not sure. They're shy. They're not aware at the resources that are available to them. They're not sure about how they will be received from the administration about their issues or about their feelings, their opinions. And so it took a couple of us with some more confidence and a couple of us who were more sure about what we were ready to do with this program to step forward and to say, okay, now it's time to, let's go.
Talk to me about what you and the organization see as some of the issues and what are some of the things that you guys are going to be looking to tackle and think you can actually accomplish.
Oh, well, the first, and it's not an issue, it's real, and I think the first issue we need to deal with is allowing other students and keeping other students informed about the current situation of the Black community. And I think that that's something that goes overlooked at an institution that's predominantly white. I don't think that the opinions of those who are in the minority at this student body and in this university are at the highest point. I don't think that we are looked at the same. And I believe that because of this, an awareness needs to be spread. Not so much a judgment needs to be passed, but an awareness about the issues, an awareness about the feelings, and what makes other people comfortable needs to be spread campus-wide, administration, faculty, students, period. Now, in terms of what we want to do now that we've spread that awareness, now we want to seek and replace it with positivity, and we want to rebuild these relationships. We want to actually talk to the students that feel adversity towards what we're doing. We want them to step up and say, hey, I don't like you guys because you guys do this, this, and this. And they say, fine, well, I didn't like that you guys did this and this, so what can we do? And so just getting that dialogue going, just getting students to actively think about someone other than themselves, getting them to want to empathize with someone else's situation is really what we need. It's the university, and the title in its own, the Salisbury Student Committee, shows that it's not a bias based on what kind of student. It doesn't have to be a Black student. It could be any type of student, but the goal has to be to make every student feel like he's every student, or make every student feel like they have a voice on this campus.
So if I'm getting you straight, you're saying that you want to make sure that minority students are heard equally as much as those who are in the majority.
Yeah, I think that that's just a starter. You know, I think that all students here have an equal voice. I believe in that. I mean, we live in America. To be frank, I believe that all students should have an equal voice. Now, even when we dig deeper than that, when we talk about on a subconscious level, we talk about on an institutional level and dealing with systematic strategies that have not been put here to allow students of color to succeed. You know, and this is a nationwide thing, but when we talk about the traditional systems that were put in place when the school was created, I think that now we have to dig a step further and we have to start to combat that. We have to actively start to build relationships where those relationships wouldn't have existed before. We would have to start putting together different legislation on campus that wouldn't have been put together before, because we missed out on all those times when we were actively accommodating for students. We've missed out on a lot of it. There's no buildings named after historically black people here on campus. That's an issue for us. It's not a high representation in terms of the faculty. Most of the black people that we see on campus are janitors, or they're working in commons serving food. I have an issue with that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's someone's fault, but it's a disparity. There's a certain disparity, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, that's going on here. And I get a lot of students saying, well, hey, we're not racist. And I don't believe in using the word racist, because I'm not here to point out what your flaws are. I know what certain flaws are. I have flaws myself, but I understand that if we're going to build on this, we have to stop looking at our flaws. We have to start explaining ourselves, stop thinking that we're better than one another. We have to start thinking that, hey, this is my school, this is your school too. And just like we would do at a party, we would hang out, we got to start to hang out culturally. We have to start to hang out intellectually. We have to start to hang out even spiritually. You know, there's a divide in almost every facet of student life here, and that needs to stop. And I think that by putting together an organization of students who are aware of these issues, of students who have been involved on the campus level for a long time, we can start to put together a strategy that can bind all the students together.
I want to ask you something that you said when you started talking about that, and it was that you felt as though minorities weren't heard as much.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that? What gives you pause and gives you the thinking that a minority's voice on this campus is not equal to that of others?
Oh, our voice is equal. The question is in terms of the reception.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the fact, the inherent nature of our voice. Oh, the minority's voice is just as important. So I'm saying that on a receptive level, when we're talking about what the campus looks like, let's just talk about the aesthetic side of campus. When you look at the buildings, even though there's been Frederick Douglass is from out here, Harriet Tubman's from out here, there's no buildings whatsoever to show those names. There's no buildings to represent any black leaders in academia. We're also dealing with, we want to look at how we run events. Our events aren't marketed to the majority of campus. Our events are marketed to the black students here.
So I want to get into some of that, but I just want to be clear. Do you believe also that the university isn't as receptive to minority students as they are to other students?
No, I don't think that they have been in the past. No.
Okay.
I believe that now that we are putting this foot forward and being bold enough to step out and to say what we really mean, when we take that charge and we go out on that limb to show them that we really care about the school, but we really care about how we feel here. We want to make this work, and we know that we're just as much of a driving force on campus. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about why we have African American international dinners, and it's all stereotypes. You know, that just shows me that we haven't built the relationships. We're still relying on Wikipedia relationships. We're still relying on this person said, he say, she say, about how we understand the colored people on our campus. And I think that that's an issue, because I don't hear any of the issues that students have with our movement personally. And I feel like, well, I'm a student here. Like, why aren't we talking about this in Commons? Why don't I hear about this while we're in class? Because there's a divide. That means that there's a social divide, meaning that we haven't been speaking to the guys sitting to our right and to our left. We've been thinking, but we haven't been speaking. And when you don't speak about it in that little space, as small as that space is, can create an animosity. It can create a jealousy. It can create a judgment. That's all based off assumption. It's all personal conclusions because you don't have enough information to make that call. So I think that we just got to establish those relationships. I don't think that people here at Salisbury, the administration here at Salisbury, doesn't want to listen to us. I just know that they've never been encouraged to listen to us in this way.
So, I mean, a lot of what I just heard was some bridge building. Mm-hmm. Can you give me some specific examples of what the organization is doing and what they plan to do to build some of those bridges, open up some of those lines of communication?
Well, it starts by, we're going to continue to work with other organizations on campus. So we're going to get involved, OLAS, and we're going to talk to the SGA, and we're going to speak to SOAP, and we're going to navigate our way through this campus because everyone has something to offer. I believe that every organization is here for a purpose. I think that they have the ability to help our situation, but they have to be able to understand it. And so the first thing is, okay, let's let these guys know where we are. We appreciate them, just like SUTV. If you guys want to figure out what's going on with us, it's our job to come let you know, because we can't complain and say, oh, you're not listening to me, you're not doing that. And if we haven't even stepped up and said, okay, this, and this is how we feel, and this is what we're willing to do about it. And so if you're on board, and most people are on board, they don't want to see anybody struggling. There's enough inequality. There's enough social stratification in this country. And so by the time that we get around to saying everything that was going wrong, we're going to waste time. So I'd rather just go straight to the source. Okay, let's talk. What do you feel about it? How do I feel about it? Let's hash it out. Because that's what this country is supposed to be built off of. And so I'm still operating off that premise. And so until someone else tells me differently, I'm going to keep doing that. And especially for Salisbury University, because this is where we came to get our education. Meaning that I'm trying to further my learning here. I'm trying to become a better man. I'm trying to become a better student, a better son, a better worker. And so in my pursuit of this, there's some certain idiosyncrasies that I have to place on this campus as well, because that's just me. That's unique. That's authentic. That's genuine. That's who we are. And I think that until Salisbury actively represents their student body fully, I think that they're putting this campus at a disadvantage. I feel like they're putting their reputation at a disadvantage, because we're a lot more than what we're giving off.
Let's talk about and you touched on it earlier when you talked about building names and faculty representation. What are some of the other issues that you guys are looking to tackle? What are some of the issues that you see? And realistically, how do you think you can go about making that change?
Well, one of the issues, and I don't want to go into a list of a grievance list. I'm not really into that sort of thing, and I'm not into a blame game. I want our campus on a structural level to start realizing that it doesn't matter that we're black. For example, we have a Greek week here. During Greek week, all the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities, those are the historically black fraternities and sororities, are grouped together on one team. One team. Now, for all the other organizations, they have a respective team for each of their organizations. So Pi Lam, Delta Gamma, they have their own team. But Delta Sigma Theta, they don't have their own team.
But
they're with AKA.
If I could play devil's advocate, couldn't that be because the size of the members of the Divine
I'm glad you said that, because this is where we start to try to get into the justification of why, okay, you're on the team, but it's not as many of you. Okay, fine. So why don't we mix it all up? Where's the Greek unity? If you're not getting to know us, where's the Greek unity? If you're not building relationships with us, what's the Greek unity? You guys are just playing against the black guys. And guess what color our jerseys are? But you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, why doesn't everybody go into a draft? Why aren't all the teams split up? Why aren't there members from each fraternity and sorority? Why aren't the teams all just split up? We come up with 4 teams like they do in Harry Potter, and everybody represents everybody because we're all one school. Why am I not getting to meet someone from Kappa Sig because I'm black? I can't be on his team? And the question is, does that encroach too much on their comfortability? And so now it's because it's kind of funny, because it's like we should change the name then. It shouldn't be a Greek week. It's not a Greek unity week if nothing is perpetuated other than competition, rivalry, winning, losing. It's not positivity. Those aren't things that work off positivity. But once you split teams up, once you integrate different organizations, now it's be impossible not to bind. It'd be impossible not to bond. The attendance would go up. The support would go up. It changes the whole face of it. Now, at first, people are shocked. They're like, oh, I want to, but that's how it is.
Well, and I know you mentioned not playing the blame game, but I think this is a good example. Do you think the onus is on the school to kind of step in and mix things up, or kind of make sure that this segregation isn't taking place? Or do you think it's up to those leaders in Greek life and other Greek organizations to say, hey, listen, we'll join with this team and we'll join with that one?
Well, my father always taught me the only person you can control is yourself. And so I believe that by us being an example, and just by us raising these questions, because I know that some of these things are things you haven't heard before, or an expression or a stance on Greek Week that you haven't heard before. And I know just from us engaging in this conversation, new dialogue is going to arise. And so I think that it's on everybody. It's on everybody at Salisbury's campus. If your fellow, if your brother, your sister, it feels like there shouldn't be something else, something can be done to accommodate, something can be done to increase the comfortability, to increase the learning experience, to increase the environment diversity, then I think it needs to be done. I mean, what you gonna lose out? It's Greek Week. Let's be serious. It's Greek Week. We're all in a fraternity. This isn't even our fraternity special week. This is for fun. This is field day for college students. And so you mean to tell me in field day for college students, we still got to group all the black people together because they don't have enough members on campus? And keep in mind, the only reason we don't have members on campus is because there's not that many black people at this school. And there's not that many black people at this school because not that many black people know about Salisbury, and Salisbury doesn't recruit to that many black people. So we can say it's because they don't have enough, but let's talk about why they don't have enough. Let's talk about why these organizations, even though they're 100 years old, are 5 years old here at this university. And so if you're going to open up those certain doors, if you're going to open up that can of worms, those in charge, those making the decisions have to be ready to address those issues. Okay, well, if you say that it's because we don't have enough and you'll stand by that, then let's talk about why we don't have enough. Let's talk about fixing that. Because you'll say we don't have enough, but then we're not recruiting higher to black students. We're not marketing Divine Nine on the school's website. We have no administrative support for black Greek fraternity and sororities. We had to fight for that. I was here. We had to fight for that. People are still afraid of probates. And so to say that we have to be all on the same team and we get grouped together because of numbers, it just shows that you're still not aware. You're still unaware of the issue. You're still unaware of the true impetus behind most of the events and the real disparity in terms of color here on campus.
I want to go to another charge you made,
Okay.
and I've heard it before by the committee, is that the university is not actively seeking black students, or not as much as they are other races. What makes you believe that? And again, how do you think that could be addressed?
Well, a lot of it is the recruitment areas. You got to take a look at where Salisbury's going. We go to the Montgomery County area. You look up along the shore. When you look at the demographics for the areas in which most of our students come from, they're not high minority areas. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. There's not a majority of students from that area. I know a lot of Baltimore City individuals who had to say Baltimore County to get in here. And that's fine, but we know that you're actively not seeking color at this campus, and that's fine. I'm not saying that this gotta be a HBCU because I go here. I'm saying that we want to, if you say that you're a university of national distinction, if you say that you have a diversity initiative, that every student is free, this is an equal opportunity campus, then we actively have to start showing equal opportunity qualities. We have to start reaching out hands to both sides of the equation, because I don't want to see all suburban kids and then you say that, yeah, we care about students of low income. It's not about that. And so I want to see some change, at least on the acknowledgement that there are other good students out there, because they're missing out on so many good students. So many students have stuff to offer here at Salisbury. And that doesn't even take away from the students here. But I'm looking in the future. I'm talking about building this university to the point where it's one of the major national universities here, because we have that type of potential. And because we've seen that type of potential, we've seen those type of students, I'm not going to settle for less. I'm not going to settle for you telling me that this is okay, this is a good amount. I've seen the campus tours. I know what it looks like. I know who you have running the campus tours. And so we've seen it. And so all of that speaks volumes about what we're doing. And no, it's not all bad, but it sure ain't all good. And so as long as we open this dialogue, as long as we start to focus in, start to buffer out and edit and get this into a nice fine-tuned machine, we can be pretty powerful, I think. And that's just my opinion, and that's the opinion of the committee. The committee is optimistic. The committee is ready, though. You know, we're ready to do what needs to be done based on the meeting we had with President Eschbach. You know, we're ready to do what needs to be done. Flint, Michigan, we're ready to do what needs to be done.
Again, with that charge with the recruiting, I think it kind of goes along the same line with the faculty and staff. And one rebut that you often hear is that while the numbers may not be proportional, a part of that is because minority students aren't looking to Salisbury the way other students are. Well, you've heard the same thing about minority faculty and staff, whether they're not looking to Salisbury, whether there's just not as many in the pool.
But we got to ask, why aren't they looking to Salisbury? You know, what's wrong with Salisbury that they wouldn't want to further their education? What's wrong with Salisbury that they wouldn't be comfortable teaching? I mean, we're less than 3 hours away from the capital of the free world. We're 2 hours away from Baltimore. Ocean City's down the street. It doesn't seem like a bad place at all. So the question is, why are people not as attracted to Salisbury? And it's because we have a lot of traditional underlying issues that have been unresolved. It's not comfortable for teachers and faculty, clearly, because if you're saying that they want to get them and they're not showing up, you think that they just don't want to teach? They want a job. People need jobs. Unemployment is not low.
I know you go to Salisbury, but you're under the opinion that that happens more so at Salisbury than it does at other institutions?
Under the opinion that, in terms of, you talking about faculty or students? Well, in terms of students, I know in my experience what other students who do not go to Salisbury think about Salisbury. And some of the information is spot on. And in terms of academics, it's a great school. But in terms of diversity, we have a lot of work to do.
Well, give me some of those perceptions.
Most of the perceptions are that there's no black people on your campus. That's what, that's what you hear. And I'm not saying that's true, but that's just what you hear, and I have to deal with it. Another issue is that the students of color here, when we talk to other students of color at other institutions like UMES, is that you guys think that you're better than us. So we're dealing with more than just Salisbury's administration. There's a PWI versus HBCU ongoing Twitter beef all nationwide, because there's certain assumptions and estimations that have been made based off of where you go to school. And so, no, all those aren't true. All of them aren't founded in fact, but there is a fact that Salisbury is not synonymous with diversity. And I think that can change, because there's too many black people from the Eastern Shore, or there's too many Hispanic people from the Eastern Shore, or there's too many, or Asian students from the Eastern Shore who can be here and go to school and actually represent this campus. I'm so tired of homepage students. I'm ready to see these students represented on an everyday basis. I want to see them running organizations. I see you doing your thing with SUTV. That's great, because it's showing that students are taking advantage of the resources available. And I feel like students are being discouraged, because when you get to Salisbury and you don't see any students that look like you in places or positions of power, it starts to subconsciously eat away at that. Maybe that's not the spot for me. Maybe I'm not a leader. Maybe my job is just to go here for 4 years, get a degree, and leave.
I want to ask you then about going about some of these changes, and kind of what seemed to spark a lot of this last semester was the sit-in at Towson University in their president's office, and then the meeting that you all had with Dr. Janet. I want to first start by asking you about walking out at the meeting, or coming to the meeting, presenting the letter, and leaving. Do you think that kind of stunted the growth that could have been made?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Because if we're going to start to say that based on the time frame in which we got our grievances to her, that means that we don't get answers, shows that we're not operating on our own power anyway. So then that essentially, using the reflexive property, means that we can be happy when she says it's okay for us to be happy, and we can be sad when she says it's okay for us to be sad. And I don't believe that. I think that as students, we're just as an integral part of this community and campus as the school's president. But I think that by us showing up, we showed respect. We listened to everything President Eshba said. We took it into account. We had people actually taking down notes that they were unaware of. But we had a plan. We have a strategy. And because of the current situation and the current mindset that the campus was in before and prior to us walking out, we believe that that would be very instrumental in getting their attention. The letter was very supposed to be instrumental in establishing our foundation, establishing where we are, since you didn't know. So I don't see how the meeting wasn't successful, because you got some literature from us, you got some ideas, you got some passion, and you got a new plan. You know, it's a new idea, a new conversation was sparked through the faculty and through the students. And we're still moving towards that. And so I think that if we want to harbor on a walkout, I feel like we're talking, those are like the same people talking about Cam Newton getting up for the interview the other day, and it's not, you know.
But you don't think more could have been accomplished in that moment by just an open dialogue? You don't
I'm not looking for in the moment change, because in the moment just means that's how you're feeling right now. And because you're feeling good right now, or we're feeling good right now, that doesn't mean that changes everything. This is an issue that's been going on for thousands of years. You know, we're talking, if you want to talk about color competition and color conflict, that's an issue that we've been dealing with. When we're talking about integration, which is what we're really still talking about. You know, it's got a new word, a nice new word, diversity. But when we're talking about establishing those lines and the barriers and the comfortability for other students to interact with students who have come from different cultures, we have to really take that into account. Like, we have to actively find a plan that's going to not only work, but it's going to work for a while. I'm not trying to just go in there and hash out some details that'll work so I can graduate happy, but the students who come after me got to start and rebuild their whole scheme. And it's like, no, I want to lay the groundwork. We want to lay the groundwork for the students that are coming class of 2020, the students that are coming class of 2025, so they're not sitting in the president's office while she's saying she wants to hear what you're talking about diversity. No, you're going to know, because we're going to establish those relationships. We're going to establish those committees that are going to be in your face. We're going to change the way this campus looks so that there's going to be no question about who's here and how we feel. And I guarantee everything's going to continue to build up, because it's a pride thing. We want to have school pride too, but it's kind of hard to have school pride when even your school doesn't feel like you represent it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it was a positive step forward, and that it was almost better than letting you all come to her, that the president came to you, which we didn't see at other universities?
I think it spoke volumes of President Eshba, and we're appreciative, very appreciative of her extending the hand. Now, I think that was a very strategic tactic to reach out to the students, because I would have done the same thing in the presidential seat. You know, if I can hypothesize, I would probably do the same thing. I want to know what my students feel like, but the real thing is we have to answer is we didn't know up to this point. So what made her call that meeting? You know, you asked me, why did we walk out? But what made her call the meeting? Was it because she was tired of the underlying racial tension going on campus, or was it because the president that she knows at Towson had students run up into their office? You know, which one is it? And it could be a bit of both. And no one should be ashamed to say that, because a lot of us have, been woken up by different events that had nothing or were totally unrelated to what we were really going to eventually end up doing. And so I could care less. But the real thing that's important, the thing that we need to hold on to is, one, we made communication, we made contact, we heard her ideas, she heard our ideas. That's the first time. So that's great. Now, maybe we didn't talk for 2 hours, we didn't sign papers, we didn't take pictures, we didn't, cut ribbons, but this is not the business I'm in. I'm not in the ribbon cutting business. I'm in the business of making sure that students of color in campuses nationwide are getting equal and fair treatment, making sure the students are still given the opportunity to learn, but that they are recognized, and so that students and campuses don't have to start being dismantled. I thought it was terrible that the president had to step down to the University of Missouri, that they could not come to an agreement before that. I see anything like that happening as a complete, utter failure by the entire campus, because you shouldn't have to dethrone your leader. You shouldn't have to do that. And the leader shouldn't go down with the ship. You can change. No one should be married to their opinion. We are all subject to subconscious. So none of us should be married to one opinion. This school should be just like this, or else you should be out of here. But I don't get that impression from from President Eschbach, from any of my professors. I don't get that from the student body. I don't get it from the ground up. I don't get that impression. So clearly you guys want to be here. We do too. Now what?
Do you think that the school has been receptive so far? And have you all had conversations since that meeting?
As a unit, and in terms of the Salisbury Student Committee, we're in constant communication. From the school standpoint, I believe that they were highly receptive. I don't know if Salisbury as a school and as a faculty is even ready to understand, or let's not say ready. I don't know if they fully understand what hearing us out means in this case. I don't know if they understand the full extent. They may. We haven't really gotten to serious talks about that, because what the letter was saying and what the meeting was about and what it was echoing is that there's some things that need to be handled on the student side of things. Because I know there's some administrative things. You guys have offices. You get paid for this. So you come in and you have those joint meetings and you talk about what's going on with Dane Faust. For the students, there's no mandatory student body meeting. There's no mandatory vote. There's no mandatory election for what our initiatives and our bills are to make the life of students better. So we actively have to go out and we have to show them that this is what's important. We have to change the status quo. We have to, where students were normally being in the gym, some of those students are coming to meetings now. Some of the students who would normally play video games, some of them are talking about diversity, and they're expressing new ideas and ways that we can change it, and proposing academic clubs which can supplement the disparity of information that's been passed about the history of black people or the culture of black people. We're talking about doing things like that. So some of your free time is going to be encroached upon. And I believe that the students who are involved with this movement, unlike most of the other student organizations on campus, this is not an extracurricular thing, because I got to go to sleep black. I got to wake up black. And so we actively think about and deal with these things on a daily basis. So I'm putting aside my personal gains, my personal 2K dynasty mode, to come out and talk about some things that actually matter to people more than me, to the thousands of students across campus who are not sitting in this interview right now, who have been feeling some of these same overlook and the same neglect and the same, okay, you're just here to get a degree, but you're never going to be a seagull type feeling. And there are some people who are there, who are like that. And I think that because the way the university is set up structurally, we're not going to hear those voices the way it's set up. But in order to have a movement, in order to have a change, the Salisbury Student Committee we have to reach all of them. We have to reach the students who are too shy to come out. We have to reach the students who already have a relationship with the president, IFC presidents. We have to, from the top to the bottom, the hierarchy does not change, because our message is true and it's unified. We just want to connect all the dots. We know that we have a constellation of talent here at Salisbury, and all we want to do is be able to draw those dots and to say, hey, you can help this person, and you're already been helping this person, but you didn't know it. And this person felt like this because he thought you felt like this, but now that you guys have spoken, we realize that both of you guys are on the same page. And all those little corrections and dotting those I's and crossing those T's, I think that we're going to wake up one day and we're going to be like, wow, this school's a lot different now. I remember those times when we didn't know about how the students were feeling, or when we thought probates were, gang-affiliated activity, or you didn't know, you thought the NAACP meant that you had to be black to listen. I remember those days, but now we're in a new era where every student, is any student. Any student is every student.
Tell me what success would look like. What are you really hoping to accomplish this semester, And what will success look like in the long term? What do you see as being possible, and what would you like to see really come true? And whether that be out of the movement or from what the Salisbury Committee, the Salisbury Student Committee can accomplish, what do you see, what does success look like?
On a student level, I think success looks like what we're doing right now. I think success looks like students helping other students get their voice heard. I think success looks like students going and feeling comfortable about joining organizations that everybody is not a multicultural organization. I think success is coming to Salisbury and not having to feel ashamed that you don't know any black people here. You know, I want success to be camaraderie, you know, and I'm not going to put a definition on what Salisbury's success is because things can change. You know, you don't know, we might have to deal with some different stuff next year, and I'm ready for it. But the success is in the ideology. The success is in students actively, critically thinking about their future. The success is students actively taking into account other students' feelings. That's the success. I don't care. Now, if they shut us down tomorrow and they said that none of the requests, none of the ideas that you guys have are going to be implemented on an administrative level or on a structural level, then we can still succeed. I'm not putting the success based on anything tangible because the enemy that we're fighting isn't a tangible enemy. Because the buildings have changed. We've got plenty of new buildings since Salisbury. It was Salisbury Normal School, but we're still dealing with some of the same issues in terms of the diversity. So I believe that success is changing the ideology of students at the base level, making students willing to want to listen, making them understand that, hey, I'm a critical thinker, I'm a conscious person. I know that I can do something more than what's been going on. And so if the university isn't going to help them, I'm going to go help them. Just like with UMES, if I feel like there's something going down at UMES where students are not being treated or not being afforded the amenities that they deserve or that are necessary for them just to succeed, then I feel an urge, a need, an inclination to go do something about it, to reach out. And that's the idea that I want to spread, not so much campus org or changing up Greek week so all the fraternities are upset with us. No. Those are symptoms of the success. Those are little bookmarks that will change your mind because we know that people are still seeing with their eyes and not their hearts. And so while you're attempting to get them to change and while you're shaping and you're showing them what this diversity thing really looks like, and not one of those little storybook ones, but what it really looks like, we're going to have to start to make those incremental changes like Greek week and faculty and building names and minor miscellaneous changes. But in terms of what the true success is, what the true force is, what the true energy and power is, it's love, it's consciousness, and it's compassion. And that's all. You can't fight love. You can't fight compassion. You can't fight the fact that you know that what this person is seeking is correct and you only can support that. You know, we don't get a lot of opposition face to face because those who we come in contact with empathize because they understand everybody wants life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's all we're doing here, but we have to understand that happiness doesn't come from a name, and happiness doesn't come from, you know, a color or a school gold card or a degree. It comes from being able to empathize and being able to build relationships with those students around you. It comes from being able to hang out and have laughs with students who you never would have laughed with. And I think that that's what success looks like.
Tell me about some of the things that you guys have planned, the Salisbury Student Committee has planned to kind of build awareness for what's going on and also to implement some of these goals.
To build awareness, one of the main things to build awareness, you just gotta be loud, you know, you gotta make noise. And when I say make noise, I don't mean physically make noise, but I mean just be everywhere. You know, we got the town hall tomorrow, we're gonna be there. You're gonna see us everywhere. We're going to effectively be everywhere on campus in every meeting, every event, because we're gonna show, one, that we take this seriously, because one thing everyone does respect is consistency. And so by us being there, we're gonna show that, hey, we're consistent, we're still caring, we're talking about issues that don't even involve us right now, but we're still here. And so I think that that's one of the main things. We got Black History Month going on right now. And so we're highly involved because almost everybody involved in the committee is in 2 to 3 other organizations. So NAACP are having their week right now. We're having poetry that was set up by the school and multicultural. We have guest speakers, keynotes coming in. We have some films we're going to show. We have a water drive we're doing for Flint, Michigan. So all these little things are creating certain awareness. And there are a lot of students, I know every student's not going to want to support us on every platform. I'm not the perfect candidate, but some people might feel comfortable about giving to Flint. And then some students might like poetry, and some students might like films. And so we can start to, touch different bases. We don't say you got to meet us on this, and this. We're not a dictatorship. We're not demanding anything. We're just opening up resources. So we're going to give students who, on the other side, just like we weren't given certain resources to hone in on our cultural background, we're going to give them some resources so they can hone in and learn about our cultural background as well. So it's not just, Black people helping Black people. No, we're helping everybody because Black history is U.S. history. Black history is world history. And so we need to understand that and stop segmenting the knowledge and understand that we don't own patents on any of this knowledge. We all are interconnected, whether you want to agree to it. And the moment you start saying that we're not, you're starting to lie. And so that's all we're going to do. We're just going to continue to show that we're a transparent organization. We're not hiding from media. You're not going to see us doing like they did in Missouri and telling cameras to turn away. For what? I don't have nothing to hide. You can look in my eyes and tell that I'm serious about it. But we will let people know that this is something we take seriously. And we're going to be highly passionate. We're going to be highly prepared to do what's necessary to make sure that this isn't an issue that our children have to deal with. And this is not an issue that the freshmen 30 years from now have to deal with, because, that would mean that we didn't go all in. We didn't do our job. And I'm not going to walk across that stage with that in my heart, knowing that I could have done more. I'm going to give it my all until May 19th. And when we get there, it might still be some work to be done. But I know that we've laid everything out. We've put all of our energies and we've allocated all of our time, and we've put our hearts into something, and we're going to try to build. And I don't know anything in the world that wouldn't show positivity or wouldn't reflect that in a positive way. And so, granted, the final image might be different, but this Polaroid that we're taking for this semester that won't be done buffering until the end of the semester, I'm confident in it, because I know that as long as we're in the right place and we're going towards the right direction, the picture's gonna come out fine. I'm not worried about the picture. I'm just worried about, collecting as many people along the way, and planting that seed in as many people along the way, so because it's an unselfish cause. I really think this Salisbury Student Committee is an unselfish cause, and I think that we have a lot of potential, but there's going to be some hardships in the future. I don't think it's all going to be peaches and cream, and that's just being honest.
Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us.
Appreciate it, man. Take it easy.